Welcome along to episode 9 of the Hong Kong Racing Show, where we get you up to date with all the latest Hong Kong racing news, plus look ahead to Sha Tin, where they are racing Friday night this week, and we're going to try and find you a winner or two. I'm Andrew Brown, joined by the one and only Alex Evers, and our special guest today is Horse Racing Nation's Keith Bush, who will be joining us very shortly to discuss Hong Kong racing, handicapping, and a lot more. So we're really looking forward to that. But Alex, we are emerging from a very busy Breeders' Cup weekend at Del Mar. Have you recovered yet, mate?
No, I'm still recovering. I took a couple of days to sleep, and the time change actually has helped me a little bit here. But how about you, man? You're the story of Breeders' Cup to me. Your boy Ironman Cal runs the race of his life and almost steals it there. The video of you was incredible. What was that like watching your horse with your mates? Did it come over from Australia too? It's not just like you and I had a horse going. Like, this is a big deal.
Yeah, it was really unbelievable, Alex. Like to firstly just have, I think, a runner contesting a Breeders' Cup race. We're talking Ironman Cal, who was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf through Little Red Feather Racing. But then to share that moment too with two of my best friends from school. We're talking about a 30-year plus friendship. And they flew all the way from Australia to do it, 16-hour flights. One of them was only here for 48 hours. But on top of all that, for him to completely outrun his odds, he was as much as, I think, 80-1 in European books, 30-1 outsider in here in America. And Fraser just gave him an absolute peach of a ride. And, for a split moment then, we were like cheering him on to win. But even just finishing second to a horse like Henri Matisse, it felt like a win. And the euphoria was just there for hours and hours afterwards. In fact, here we are 5 or 6 days afterwards, and I'm still on cloud nine. It was absolutely an amazing experience.
That's awesome. To me, that's what racing is about, is sharing with your friends, having those connections and those bonds. And then I love seeing the pictures of you back with him at the stables afterwards. Just love it on him. I think that's the essence of horse racing to me. It was wonderful to see.
It's amazing that connection that you can start to develop with a horse you've got some skin in the game with. And my wife as well absolutely loves him. Is constantly saying, awesome. Is Ironman Cal still at Del Mar? Can we go and visit him? So yeah, it's great. Like, it's helped her get into the sport, which is just fantastic. Wonderful. So yeah, it was nice to reflect on that. But what about you? Did you have a highlight from Breeders' Cup week?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Rebels Romance. Like, we'll keep it with the Hong Kong connection. And for me, I got to photograph him in Dubai this year, in Hong Kong, and now at Del Mar. I don't know if he's going to go back for the Voss in December, whether he does or not. He's just such a cool horse. Like, he's got that Highland Reel vibe. He shows up at all the races and he runs his race. And to me, the ride that Buick gave him was phenomenal for how tight Del Mar is. And he kept him in a wonderful position. To me, it looked like he got a little bit kind of looking around without competition out there, because he's not normally in front like that, although he was in Dubai. But brilliant race. And Rusham Park for Japan almost gave him their first grade 1 outside this year. He was flying. And that trip at Del Mar is crazy, because you have to be close to the fence, and it's hard to go real wide, and it compromises you. But I think that was the highlight for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was an incredible run. That horse, gosh, wouldn't you like a few of them in your stable? I think he's now 15 from 22 starts, more than 11 million in prize money. And even just this year, he's won races in Doha, Dubai, Hong Kong, of course, the Champions and Cheddar Cup, Germany, and now, of course, the United States. I don't think he's won a race at home. He's just traveled the world and wins.
He takes his track wherever he goes. Like, what you got to love a horse like that. And he's gorgeous too. And he's not a grade 1 winner, but he won the UAE Derby as well. So like, he's a pretty cool horse. He's an easy one to get behind, and hopefully we get to see him run again next season.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Okay. Well, time now to get you up to date with some of the latest Hong Kong racing news. And Hong Kong racing superstar Romantic Warrior couldn't have looked more impressive, winning a trial over California Spangle earlier in the week over 6 furlongs on the Sha Tin dirt. The winner of 5 Group 1 races last season, including the Cox Plate in Australia and the Yasuda Keenan in Japan, is gearing up for his seasonal debut in next weekend's Jockey Club Cup. Alex, we also know a very ambitious Middle East campaign could be on the cards for Romantic Warrior next year. And given the way he seems to travel through the dirt there at Sha Tin, you can perhaps see why trainer Danny Schum wants to give it a go. What did you think of the trial?
Effortless. Like he moved like a nice horse does on the dirt. And granted, he's a Grade One winner, and he's got all the talent in the world, but just the way he skipped over the dirt without being asked. And Bowman seemed really complimentary of him, and he went in the pacifiers to keep the dirt out of his eyes, which I love. Like I think just keeping positive experiences on the dirt for these horses as they go forward, it's a wonderful thing. And maybe you get the likes of him, fierceness, forever young. Like the cast for the Saudi Cup is starting to line up to be incredible. That could be just an absolutely banger of a race.
Yeah, that could be the race of the season. He's got a couple of races to get through first before he gets there. Of course, International Day, but coming up on November 17th, so next weekend, really exciting racing actually is where we're going to see Romantic Warrior make his seasonal debut in the Jockey Club Cup, where we'll also see the likes of Encountered, Ensued, who of course won last week's Sasa Ladies Purse. And actually holds entries for the Cup and the Vase on International Day, does Ensued, and the likes of Nimble Nimbus. A couple of other big races coming up too next weekend, including the Jockey Club Sprint featuring the likes of Beauty Waves, California Spangle, who just ran second behind Romantic Warrior in that trial. I thought California Spangle was very good in that trial too. How Deep Is Your Love, and Superstar Ka Ying Rising, or Superstar to Be, I should say, Ka Ying Rising. In the mile race, Beauty Eternal, Beauty Joy, Chang Cheng Glory, the Pride of Iowa, as we like to call him, Voyage Bubble, and Galaxy Patch, who also trialled during the week as he tracks towards the Hong Kong Mile on International Day. So, yeah, plenty to look forward to next weekend, Alex, with some real superstars at Sha Tin.
Patch went really easy, and they weren't asking much from him. That's going to lead him up nice. But I was actually really impressed with Beauty Eternal. He looks really good. I don't know if he's going to bait me into to playing him, but he moved real nice, and he looks like he's going in the right direction. He's going to improve off that last race. So we love to see the good horses go in the right direction, and they're all going to meet here in the lead-up weekend, and then hopefully everyone comes out well, and we get on to HKIR. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so good this year. I'm counting the days.
Absolutely. We've got, about a month to go until HKIR, so plenty of exciting times between now and then. Also making news this week, Carice Teeton brought up his 700th Hong Kong winner during the week when he rode the David Hall-trained Speedster to victory in the opener at Happy Valley on Wednesday. Alex, just 6 jockeys have ridden that many winners in Hong Kong. Only 6 jockeys have ridden 700 winners in Hong Kong. I didn't tell you about this before we came on air. Can you name the other 5?
We'll go Douglas Wyatt.
Tick.
Zach Purton.
Tick.
Before that, Gerard Mose?
He's not in it, but a very similar first name.
Drawing a blank.
Who did Zach used to lock horns with for many years?
Before Douglas?
No. Just recently.
Oh, Joe Moreira.
Yep, there's the other one. Now, the other one.
How many Shane Dye get when he was there? Not 700.
He didn't get to 700. So we've got 2 more. One of them is the trainer of a superstar sprinter.
Oh, Tony Cruz.
Yep.
One day I'll tell my Pakistan Star story. We'll leave that for another day.
Love it. And the final one, the missing piece, an ex-Australian or an Australian, whose last name rhymes with Pebble.
Oh, Brett Preble, come on now. That's the type of tip that I needed right there. And then my boy Vincent's got to be getting close too. He got 500 2 seasons ago, so a couple of years he'll be up there.
Yep.
The accomplishment. It's such a challenging colony too. Like it's unlike anything else. But you got to be your own agent. You got to do your own form. You got to be able to negotiate, deal with the personalities, and then go out and execute on the track too. That's a super good feat. And Karis being from Mauritius, like his story's incredible, and I couldn't be happier for him. He's a wonderful guy. He's good, and he's great for photography too. He always gives me the best pictures.
Nice, the Mauritian magician. And speaking of world-class jockeys, the lineup for next month's International Jockeys Challenge, or IJC, at Happy Valley was announced during the week. Check out this list. We've got Ryan Moore, arguably the best in the world, and a 2-time winner of the IJC too, if I'm not mistaken, back in 09-10. Holly Doyle and William Buick are joining him to represent Great Britain. We've got New Zealand's best, or Australia's claimed him, James McDonald. He'll be there. Zach Purton, of course, last year's winner in Local Hope, Vincent Ho. Alex, what a lineup! What do you love about IJC? Because you've been to a few of these now.
It's so much fun. The crowds are pumped up. The allocation is really fun where you get to see who gets the draws and who gets the barriers. And it really boils down to which horses you draw on and which ones have the barriers. Sometimes it's just too much to overcome. But last year was incredible. We came down to the wire with Vincent winning the photo on Tomodachi Kakaro, putting him over the top for the win. And he didn't even know he'd won. They go into the last race and he comes to the jockey's room. He's like, "Oh, I won!" Like,
I
it
remember.
was it was so much fun, and I love photographing it. It's a chance to get the best jockeys in the world, and you're all in a fair environment where the track it's a jockey's race at Happy Valley. And the Hong Kong guys do have an advantage because they ride there so frequently, but it's anybody's game. I'd be watching Purton. Purton's always the guy. He's like, "Oh, I don't have a chance. I drew bad." And when he tends to say that, the horses tend to run for him.
All right, it's time to bring in this week's special guest, and we are delighted to welcome in Keith Bush, who is the Director of Machine Learning and Advanced Analytics at Horse Racing Nation. And Keith, among other things, also has a PhD in computer science from Colorado State University. The combined IQ of this panel has just increased 100-fold, which doesn't say much about you and I, Alex. Keith is also very passionate about Hong Kong racing. Keith, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is great.
So I remember just before the new Hong Kong season kicked off a couple of months ago, you posted something on X that kind of went viral, I think we can say. It certainly got a lot of interest, and it was listing a lot of the things that you love about Hong Kong racing. So what are some of those things? What do you love about Hong Kong racing?
Yeah, everything, frankly. That's kind of it was a list and kind of order of all the things that they do very well. Um, and I can't remember, now that I'm thinking about the list, it's, the field sizes, the pool sizes, the race weight handicapping system, which just makes every race extremely competitive. The fact that, the horses are mostly geldings, so they run for years. Your superstars like Golden 60, I see in the background. You get to see your superstars run for years and bet on them, which is fantastic. The way the stewardship's handled there, they're very proactive in creating an environment where the jockeys behave perfectly when they're on the track. You don't see any of the problems with herding, other kind of shenanigans that go on necessarily tracks where the stewards are less strict. So it's like all this, just everything is kind of developed there to be betting friendly. The product is, and I guess the free data would be the other thing, is like the Jockey Club's very serious about collecting high quality data, curating that data, and then pushing it out through their website, which can be consumed by people like me that are focused on data and analytics. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you get into Hong Kong racing?
So I haven't been horse racing in a long, just like 4 years now, and I was heavily into doing computerized betting in the United States. And then it was during the 2023 summer season, there was just a lot of problems cropping up in U.S. racing with just inconsistent stewardship decisions, small fields, just a lot of problems, takeout increase at Kentucky Downs. Like everything just seemed very uncertain in the United States. It seemed very anti-better. And I had heard a lot of great things about Hong Kong. How big, I didn't know anything other than I'd heard it's very data friendly. It's very big fields, big pools. And I'd known that computer people had been successful there in the past. So I started looking into it. I contacted some people that know about Hong Kong to learn how it works.
Was the learning curve pretty great for you, or was it something that was easy to get into?
It's very steep, honestly.
I thought so too.
It's such a difference. So one, I was pretty new to horse racing and I didn't have 20 years of experience, like processing how racing works. So I'm still technically learning just basic horse racing still today. But the way that Hong Kong organizes things is so different. At least if you come from the perspective of an American racing, where we, how we card races, what the rules are, the field sizes, everything's just bigger at Hong Kong. The stewards are much more strict. The way that the weighting penalties are done in Hong Kong, which is one of the most important parts of the game, is understanding how the class system works, how the weighting system works, how the jockey club, rates the horses to determine how they move about through these rating levels, how their performances determine those ratings and whatnot. So that is that's the game on top of the game that exists at Hong Kong that you have to understand. That's really more important and hard to get your head around until you experience it and kind of work with it.
When you switched over, going from, let's say, condition and claiming races at the lower class end and having to understand that condition structure of a race, then going to Hong Kong and it's all handicap based, 60 to 80, class 5, 50 downward. Was that something easier to get into, or was that something when you first started, was it difficult to understand the condition book of the United States?
Yeah, the U.S. system, I'm still unclear how it works. All the, yeah,
You're a PhD, and I think you got
yeah,
to be a Mensa member to understand some of the conditions.
it's one of those. So for one, I really hate stuff like that. So I really like to have conceptual frameworks that are easy to understand. That's like the scientific way. Is like people spend time figuring out ways to make things easy to understand, so you can pick up on concepts and work with them. The U.S. system is very complicated. These non-winners of two, and whereas Hong Kong is, the condition system is very straightforward, right? You have rating points. That's basically, there's a parameter for your horse. That horse goes between two parameters that are determined by the race structure. And I guess the thought process around it is very complicated, but the actual rules of that are quite simple and make it easy. I guess it's easy for trainers to know where they're going to put their horses, which is great. It's easy for bettors to know what kind of horses are going to be in the race, right? You don't get class drops. You keep people gaming conditions. So that is wonderful about it. I'll agree. Yeah.
I was trying to explain to a buddy over there last night. He was asking about claiming races, and I was explaining all the trickery that can go on, and the wearing the wraps and hiding them, and the drops. And when you go from, in California specifically, you could claim a horse at Del Mar, or sorry, at Santa Anita, drop it in class because you want to win at Del Mar. It takes a lot to kind of understand the class system and where horses fit in, and I think it's so much easier once you understand to get into Hong Kong racing.
Yeah. And from a modeling standpoint, having so many different types of races, it kind of it diffuses your data much. That's a technical thing, but it basically makes it harder to model races because you have so many different kinds of races in the U.S. versus a much more compact representation in Hong Kong, which allows you to kind of model even with, there's a lot fewer starts at Hong Kong, so you don't get as much data as you get in the U.S., but it's more precisely deployed, would be the way to say it.
Can you give us some insights, Keith, into, you mentioned your modeling and all that kind of stuff, and how that helps you then, what goes into it, then wager on Hong Kong on any given card at Happy Valley during the week and Sha Tin on the weekend? We should ask you too, your success rates between those two tracks.
I haven't run that. So how I'm doing the modeling. So in the US, because the US has so many tracks, there's so many starts per year in the US, like a traditional machine learning approach is very successful. And so you can model millions of past starts and construct statistical models that are very, they're competitive. One of the things that's challenging about Hong Kong is that there's not a lot of data. There's only 10,000 starts per year. It's 2 days a week. There might be 100 to 120 starters a night. So from a machine learning perspective, we consider that a very data poor environment. You don't have a lot of samples to train your models. Now that's counterbalanced with the fact that Hong Kong data is extremely high quality. The timings are always correct. The people they have working behind the scenes there to actually curate the data and deploy it on the website, they must do a lot of work to catch data errors, data problems, because when the data comes out of Hong Kong, it's pristine. It's perfect. So from a machine learning standpoint, that's wonderful because you don't have a lot of errors kind of infecting your computer models. So those are the trade-offs between the two, domains that I've worked in. And because Hong Kong is a little bit more data poor, I decided to shift the way I was modeling Hong Kong. Instead of using just a black box machine learning approach, I use an old school speed figure making approach where I build speed figures, I build pace figures. And then what I use is I use the machine learning models to kind of integrate those pieces together to come up with my expectations of who's going to win, how much are they going to, what's their price going to be when they go off, to compute how I should bet. And the reason I did that was because Hong Kong's data poor, but also it allows you to use all of the other things that Hong Kong makes available to you in terms of the different data signals that they provide, the video, the replays are available, they're pristine, all the different views on the replays that are wonderful. You can inject a lot of extra information into speed and pace figures through replay study that it's very difficult to do at the United States because there's just so many tracks, there's so many horses, they move around a lot. So that's the upside is you can build very precise models of Hong Kong on less data. And so that's the approach I'm testing. Again, this is a kind of a science experiment for me. I'm trying to do it. This is the first season I'm really working on it, and we'll see how it goes.
How is it going? We're 2 months in.
It's kind of hit or miss. I won't lie. Like it's been tough. In my simulations, I was going to do 0. I'm definitely not positive ROI so far. I would have looked this up before. I think something like 360 wagers, and I'm still in negative territory. My confidence intervals still include positive ROI, so I'm hoping it's just short-term unlucky outcomes.
Yeah.
But if that confidence interval would drop below 0, that would be the point where I'd shut down the model and say, this didn't work. I need to figure out what happened, retool, and redeploy a new experiment, just iterate. That's how I did in the US for a few years until I built a model that was profitable. It'll be the same thing in Hong Kong.
Super interesting.
I'm suspicious I probably won't make it this cycle. I'm missing something that didn't come out in testing. So we'll see. I don't know.
And the speed fingers that you're coming up with, are they sort of similar to what an American would be used to with American speed figures? Are we talking sort of along the lines of a buyer speed figure?
Yeah, my speed figures, the way I calculate them, start with the buyer algorithm, how it's written in the kind of the original text from whatever 1980, and then I add in a bunch of custom tweaks and looking at things like trip, pace adjustments, and in particular Hong Kong, the weight adjustment is so important. All of those things go into kind of making variant adjustments for the horse and to come up with numbers. And then I also do it with machine learning. So I do kind of this old school speed figure approach, and then I do kind of a machine learning approach to have 2 independent methodologies, so I can kind of look at it, eat the 2 methodologies and see if they're diverging or converging.
Are you like me, where you're a couple noses of photos away from having some decent scores?
I am. So that's the one. That's why I wouldn't want to shut down the model. I'm like a total of maybe 5 feet from being super profitable this year. I had some really tough, major long shot misses. Very unfortunate. And so that's the thing. So you can compute with machine learning. You can actually do what's called bootstrapping and go back and look and see how unlucky you were and build confidence intervals, like all the possible universes of outcomes. So, I could be anywhere from like down 75% to being plus like something like 260%. It's really just luck. But the universe I'm in is currently negative.
I'll tell you one thing interesting about there, and if you're listening to the broadcast, they have computer teams in the pools, and it's very well publicized that they're there. When you're live at the track, if a horse takes, I can't remember what the percentages is, it's the highest percent, it lights up red on the board so you can see the computer money coming in late. And if I think it's like 30% or 15%, it goes down to green. And they show that in the win and the place pools. And I think it helps with the confidence factor for the bettors. Instead of seeing it after they've hit the first quarter mile and you're like, well, my horse just dropped from 4 to 1 to 2 to 1. There, where the money is going in.
100%. It's really, so when I'm actually playing, I actually have Hong Kong's totes up. I have like,
okay.
I have big screens, big computer screens, and I put up all the Quinella tote, the Exacta tote, and the Win tote, and I'm watching those numbers. I'm seeing basically how the velocities are shifting to kind of get, because currently I'm a very primitive bettor. I'm just Win, a little bit of Exacta, a little bit of double, only when I see things that are just popping off the page that are in those exotics. So I'm really trying to judge where the Win numbers are going to go at the end, and Hong Kong is very transparent about the teams being in there, and that's why they provide these visual cues. Like the computers are going to hit late, but they tell you what's going on. Like, and you get a trigger time of 30 seconds or so to say, okay, the horse I liked was the 7. The teams like the 7. I'm going to take a much shorter price, or you can cancel the ticket. It's your decision, as opposed to halfway through the backstretch, you find out that the computer teams liked it.
Yeah. And I've been telling people too, like, to get kids and young people from sports betting over into horse racing in the United States, like the computer teams are going to go to the exacta pools, they're going to go to the double pools, they're going to go to trifectas and other things. If they're out of the win pool, we just lose that optic of the late odds change. Like if someone's betting pro sports and they bet $100 on a parlay, they see their payout and it's not fluctuating as the game's going on. I think we've got to work on that in the United States a bit.
Yeah, that's correct for sure. And yeah, teams are tough. I think Hong Kong does a great job of at least giving retail bettors a chance to defend themselves.
Yeah.
at the end, which is, if they're big handle business decisions, they need to provide liquidity, but you need to give retail bettors some kind of defensive mechanisms. And I think Hong Kong does a good job. In
100.
addition to having just enormous pools. So the other defense is when you have, 17 million per race handled, it's hard for the computer teams to shove so much money at the end. They can't do it all in one tote flash. It takes a few seconds. So you get one, which is enough to pull a ticket or bet.
Yeah. And we should point out too, for those of you watching this that are just getting into Hong Kong racing, betting from North America, you are betting in to the Hong Kong pools through your North American ADW. So you're betting into these pools with enormous liquidity, which, as Keith just pointed out, is going to mean you're not going to see too many late odds changes. Every now and then you'll see something go brown or turn green or along those lines that Alex just referred to. But you are through your North American ADW, whether it be TVG, FanDuel Racing, Twin Spires, all of those, you're betting straight into the Hong Kong racing pools. Was that a key sort of, I guess, appeal to betting Hong Kong? You've listed a few of them. Was it that liquidity? And just tell us, Keith, now is Hong Kong? Are you betting in America and Canada and everywhere else, or what's the story with your betting now these days?
I only bet in Hong Kong now. I'm 100% Hong Kong. I probably bet on like a Kentucky Derby day. It's like a fun action bet. But in terms of day-to-day betting, I only bet Wednesdays and Saturdays essentially now.
Amazing.
So I have a question. I have a question for you. When you play, are you just picking your spots and you're seeing where you feel like you have an advantage and you maybe only play 3 or 4 races a day? Or are you trying to play everything? And
well, so that's a complicated question. So right now I'm essentially running a science experiment where I'm evaluating my tool to see how well it does when the computer tells me here's all the bets it would make. I'm just making all those bets. I make them. I don't use large sums of money, but I'm just to keep it fun. I actually use real money to keep my brain focused on the problem. So, but when I was successful betting in the US, you don't make all those bets. You only take the choicest bets. So you take all the bets the computer's saying to take, and then you take like the tail distribution that are the best bets. If you're a retail bettor like me, where you're not getting massive rebates, if you get big rebates, then you start moving the total number of wagers you make to lesser and lesser ideal bets because the rebate makes up for your risk. So that would be how we go. Eventually, as your rebate goes up, you use all the bets the computer's recommending. And
I'm not going to lie. My strategy is go to dinner with my wife, have a couple drinks, come home, and then be a degenerate and try to have action in every race. And I know it's the worst path to profitability, but I'm just one of those guys. I love having action on racing.
When you're up at 2 a.m, waiting for the next race, you kind of want to do something, but
you get confidence. You start betting Australia. You start betting this. Like when we go to Red Tractons in Del Mar on opening weekend, I'm playing like everything, and I know it's the path to the poorhouse, if you will.
Yeah. I would say there's maybe the way that I model. Again, I'm not a CRW. Those guys bet every race, multiple angles, and all that. But I would say there's like maybe 3 prime bets a night. 3 or 4 would be if I was seriously trying to make money. Mm-hmm. That would be, and you just got to be patient, pick your spots.
Yeah.
And put a lot of money in. So that's where you big bets, big edges.
Yeah.
And then roll with it like that. Yeah.
All right, Keith. Well, we're going to put your modeling to the test with a couple of races at Sha Tin tonight, Friday night. A couple of really good races too. Let's start with race 6, the Panasonic Japan-made system kitchen handicap, featuring a really awesome little field. WizKid loves the track and distance, packing treadmill, an honest group performer. We've got Wunderbar, who's undefeated this season and now looking for 5 straight wins. Magic Control coming off a solid second behind Beauty Waves in that Group 3 National Day Cup. And Keith, as we take a look at the speed map, which shows WizKid likely to hold the lead from an inside draw with Wunderbar, Magic Control tucked in behind. What does your modelling say about race 6 at Sha Tin tonight?
Yeah, so this one, and it's unusual, it has Wunderbar 61% chance of winning. So one of the highest numbers I've seen this year so far.
Wow.
I'm also estimating, though, that, and I'm not necessarily believe this number, is that it's going to be 40% in the off odds pool. So That would be like a very high Kelly bet for me. Like that's a prime bet, basically having that kind of advantage in terms of the fair odds versus the off odds. But when you're talking about a probability that high, 61%, I would say that my model's probably too conservative on the off odds. And so you're likely to get fair value, meaning 61% probably will be reflected in the odds. So you'll get like 1 to 2, something like that when it goes off. That would be my guess. It's going to be an odds-odd favorite in that race.
That's interesting. Yeah, like I'm not sure how reliable these morning line odds that we get from our partner Sky Racing World, but they've got Wunderbar at the moment. I believe I'm just pulling it up on my screen. I thought I saw 5-4, which would be nice based on what the information that you've just told us.
Yeah, that's a prime bet for that would be. I have Wunderbar. It's going to be in that range of like even money, lower. I would say lower. And then second choice is going to be Magic Control, something like 3-1. And I'm using net odds, so I'm talking in net odds, not gross odds. Like at Hong Kong, that might be confusing depending on how we want to. Like on the tote at Hong Kong, they actually show up with the extra 1 added in, the payout, right. Basically the payout odds. So I'm talking about like American style odds here. So this would be even money American, 3-1 American style.
Very nice. Right. Okay. Well, Alex, 61% chance of victory. Wunderbar, yeah, according to Keith's modeling. What do you think?
He was the horse that I was on because I just think he's got a supreme amount of talent relative to this bunch. And I did like Magic Control potentially to get in their second, switching from Jamie Richards now over to Cody Moe, who's been doing well this season. But Wunderbar is a nice horse, and he's a potential Grade 1 winner in Hong Kong. So if he goes off, if he's at even money, that's probably a pretty sick play. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, for sure. I actually just pulled that up on Sky Racing World. 4-5 they've marked as the morning line odds. So we'll see how accurate that is. I before having Keith on and finding out his model thinks there's 61% chance victory, I actually thought Wunderbar is the one to beat in this race too. Clearly his toughest test to date, but it continues to progress. I think he's up for it though. We brought up on this show a couple of times that he beat Kaying Rising twice earlier on in this year, and we've seen how good Kaying Rising's been going. Zach sticks solid, can sit outside the leader or maybe even get a little cover and unleash that turn of foot down the stretch. So Wunderbar for me. I think, is that a clean sweep for Wunderbar, or no, Alex, you're going for a bit of value?
No. That's a clean sweep. And his form line, Kaying Rising, Lucy in the Sky coming back to win. And then you get a preview of bottom up together here as well. Like if he runs very well, I think the pace might be compromising him a little bit, but we'll see. He's got good form as well. So,
yeah, that's right. All right, well, let's look at that race that bottom up together's in. It's the next race, race 7 at Sha Tin tonight, the Panasonic Cup. The Golden Scenery back after his last out, 7th in the Sha Tin Trophy behind Galaxy Patch. Young Champion returns from a bit of a freshen up. The exciting bottom up together, as we just mentioned, looking to make amends to his last out defeat to Wunderbar. And over the page, big field this one. We've got Packing Hermit, who's a horse on the rise. Rubylot, who was impressive first up and should enjoy the extra distance. The speed map showing bottom up together, sitting outside Drombeg Banner for the lead in the speed map I have anyway. And Packing Hermit should get quite a nice run behind them. Keith, interested to see what your modelling says on this race because it's a big field and a lot of chances by the looks of things.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting. So this is the kind of race that I really get excited about betting. So my model has this race very flat. It has again, I'll talk about the true win probability, not what the odds will say, but it has Packing Hermit as the most likely winner, but only at 26%. Mm-hmm. So that's unusually low, even for a big field at Hong Kong. And then let's see, we're saying bottom up together at 18%. So, and then most of the other horses are 6, 7 in that range, very flat. But I'm going to throw out a bomb on this one. So it's unusual that this happens, but Six Pack, the lowest rated horse. So I actually have a separate model. Not only do I do machine learning and the speed figure model, I also have a separate statistical model that kicks out angles. And when it sees like a really ideal opportunity to bet, it'll highlight this bet to me. So Six Pack is the lowest rated horse in the field. And on this particular type of race, so a Sha Tin 1,400 meter turf race,
Mhm.
The lowest rated horse in the last 3-4 years, 121 races, is 156% ROI, 9% strike rate. So it's a pretty small sample, only 121, but with the ROI that big, that's like a really nice angle play that I would definitely bet that. And just looking at the numbers, last out speed fits. The late pace is a little compromised, but his early pace will probably put him mid pack, and at that price, he's going to be 40, 50 to 1. That's
Wow.
a play. For me, that's a play right there. That's why I play Hong Kong.
Oh, I'm salivating.
I'll be a 6-pack deep when I'm making that bet, probably.
Harry Bentley for Douglas White in race 7, and Keith coming up with a real long shot play 6-pack, which could be around 40 to 50 to 1. Alex, who do you like?
Previously named Hey Fat Cat. You're going to have a fat bank account if you hit that. In this race, for me, looks like, just looking at it, I think you're going to have a bunch of pace with Drumbeg Banner, bottom up together going forward. I am kind of off-packing Hermod here. We'll see how good he is. And that's kind of the interesting thing is a horse like him who's going to be poised to go to the 4-year-old Classic Series. You're taking on older horses earlier in the season here. I think we're going to get a good gauge of where he kind of fits ability-wise. Hewitson 1 for 21 on Francis' horses this season.
Ooh.
I'm going to pass on him, but I am going to go on to Young Champion with Size's horse second up. The horse had a ton of ability before having a minor setback and taking some time off last season. Always well meant. I made a beautiful photo of him, so I'm a little biased. But Teton fits him well, and Size's horses go better with a little bit more time throughout the season. So I'm going to try to catch a price with Young Champion, but I'm going to mix anything I do. I'm going to throw a 6-pack in any exact or anything I go
me
in.
too.
Try to catch something. Maybe get ROI positive, because why not?
Me too. Yeah.
That's a plus EV play based on everything I'm seeing here. Second time out, can improve. It looks good.
There was another race, and I don't know if you have your model up or you've looked at it, but I was just
I have everything run, yeah, so I could do anything.
The second race, I was just kind of clicking through, looking the other day. I believe it's a class 4. Yeah, it's a class 4, but the weights, I've never seen the parity like this. Like the top horse is carrying 131, but from the 2 horse to the 12 horse, they're all carrying 130, so all rated at 52.
Yeah.
And then the lightest horse gets in at 124, one at 129. I've never seen that even of a race in the handicap.
Just a 7-pound spread from top to bottom. Yeah.
Is the class 4 restricted? So here's the problem with this kind of race. There's how many first timers? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 first time starters in here, I believe. And so when I have a race like that, there's so much variance because you just don't have any form on these horses.
Mm-hmm.
I've run again, I'm trying to make not trying to just hit, but the model says there's just no way. There's nothing you can do there based on the data that I have. So I have the number. So like the favorite, my model says the most likely winner is Purton's horse. What is that? Circuit Jolly?
Yep. David Hayes' horse.
But the confidence intervals on that are so big, I wouldn't play it because the model's unsure. Let's just say that's how I would interpret it.
So the model's a little human in a way, isn't it? When you've got no idea, you just back Purton.
Yeah, that is not a terrible strategy. He's quite
especially when he's going good. Yeah. And that's the thing with Wonder Bar, like the Purton effect. He's going to take an extra couple points just because Zach's on him.
Yeah. And Brittany Wong, of course, got 10 pounds in that race as well, so that'll bring that down to 120.
Oh yeah.
Does your modeling take into account Brittany Wong, especially from post 1 as well?
My model has, honestly, that's one of the things this year. It's really loved her because they're putting her on these, like the top rated horse, and then she gives them this 10. I guess she lost her 10-pound, right? She's at 7 now.
No, she's still at 10.
I think she's still at 10. Yeah.
Okay. But they seem to be deploying her on these, like the first or second rated horse. They're carrying a lot of weight. They're just like removing that weight, using her as the jockey, and that's. My model's been loving that angle because it boosts her speed figures quite a bit. Like the projected speed figure is quite high because of that weight benefit.
For sure.
Which one? I don't see. It's what horse? I'm looking.
Lucky Blessing.
She's on the. Lucky Blessing, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So
Number 7.
I have a 10% chance of winning.
Right.
She's been more successful on horses that go forward too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Keith, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this. Has been a really insightful and fantastic chat. In terms of this information, I guess it's under lock and key with you at the moment. Are there any potential opportunities in the future to be able to purchase this data or anything like that? Or is there something out there now at the moment that if somebody's interested, they can go and check out your stuff?
I'm not selling. I'm not selling my modeling. I do run some of the Hong Kong stuff through the company. HRN actually puts out like based on some of the modeling I'm doing. We put out like a exotic kind of some notes on what horses are going to perform in a particular key race.
Mm-hmm.
You can sign up to our email list to get those picks. They come out like the night of the race or the morning of the Sunday races. So we put that out. But for now, I'm still in research and development phase, primarily on my end.
Great. Well, everybody head to the Horse Racing Nation website and sign up for that email. I'm going to be doing that as soon as we finish this show so that I can get more tips like 6-pack in race 7 at Sha Tin tonight, which I know Alex is going to be throwing into every single exotic bet he possibly can. Is that right, Alex?
I'll text you at 3 a.m. when we hit.
Absolutely. Imagine we got the 6 up with 6-pack. That'd pay a lot.
We can afford a couple 6-packs after that.
For sure. Gentlemen, thank you both. Well, Alex, as always, for coming on, and Keith, thanks for coming on and chatting Hong Kong racing with us. We really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back on. It's a long season. We've still got, 6 months, 7 months to go. So yeah. we'll probably get you back on if that's all right with you.
Yeah, it'd be great. This is fantastic what you guys are doing. Appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate you too. And we appreciate all the viewers, all of you for tuning in. Looking forward to a big night at Sha Tin this evening. Hopefully you find plenty of winners. Keep following us, Hong Kong Racing North America. And of course, get all your information from the Hong Kong Jockey Club website. And also HRN, Horse Racing Nation. Head over there and sign up for that email and everything else, all the good stuff over at Horse Racing Nation. And we'll see you next time on the Hong Kong Racing Show.